So many owners, HVAC owners included, think their marketing problem is volume, but that's not always the case. It's that half your channels are producing appointments at 2 or 3 times the acceptable cost, and nobody's really looking at it month by month. And so that's what I want to show you how to do here. So this is cost per booked appointment by lead source by month and year. And so this KPI is just one piece of the puzzle, because this still doesn't tell you everything, meaning this is per booked appointment. This doesn't include showed. And the reason why I don't include that is because that's a different metric, meaning your follow-up sequences, your cadences to make sure people are showing up to demos is different than, people booking appointments through the lead source. And you'd also have to, calculate other things that are outside of the scope of this video. But also, it's like, just because you're paying $340 for a booked appointment, it doesn't mean that's bad, because the next thing you have to see is, like, how much revenue are you making on average per, Angie? Because then you could do the math, and you could see, like, okay, this is $340 an appointment versus $90 for, local Google ads, but we're making, on average, we're making way more than we are for Google ads, right? So this is just one piece of a puzzle that has, a lot more metrics. And so what we have here is the data set that we're going to use. And so if you want this file, there's a link to download it, but also for internal use, you should create this. Like, if you Service Titan, you can create custom fields to recreate some of these. But also, if you're getting, 10, 15, 20 leads a day, you should have somebody entering in this data pretty much exactly like this, because you can do a lot of stuff with this data set. If you've, seen other chapters or other sections of the marketing part of my book, then you would see that this exact file is used a lot. And if you're watching any of my other videos, you'll see, again, that this file is used a lot for many, many different KPIs that are very valuable. But okay, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to strip out the month and the year from, the timestamp. So it could be here or here, because the month and the year are the same. And I've already done that, but the way we do that is equals text, and then go to your date, the cell that has the date in it, and then quotations and 4 M's. And you can see now you have the month. And then for the year, same function, but this time 4 Y's. And make sure to use quotations. And so we have that. So that's how you do that. I'm going to delete this because we already have it. I just wanted to show you how we came up with that. Okay, so the next thing we need to get the list of the months in sequential order, with the year, and then a list of all of the marketing, the marketing channels that we're using. And so what I'll do to get the unique list is use the unique function. So equals unique, and then just here, and then you can see, if you highlight that range, you'll get the unique list. And then I'm going to remove the formula from here by pressing Control-C and Control-Shift-V. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to get a unique list of the marketing channel, the lead sources, essentially. And that's what we have here. And then I want to sort this alphabetically, so I'm going to use the sort function. And then from there, I want to transpose this across the top. And so now you have that. And then again, copy, and then Control-Shift-V as in Victor to paste. Okay, so how do we calculate this? In the data set, we have lead cost right here in column L. And then we also have appointment booked. So essentially, we need to sum the lead cost by marketing channel, and then by month and by year. And then we need to divide it by marketing channel, and then if there's a yes in the appointment booked, by month and by year. And so let me just show you. It's a little bit confusing. So the numerator of the equation is going to be the total amount of money spent for Angie January 25. So sum if Angie and January and 2025, the lead cost column. So we know it's in a table. So we want to do lead cost, USD. And then we want to do, you can do the sequencing for the next part. Doesn't matter. You can do the month first, the year first, the marketing channel first. None of that matters. But it's just make sure you do all of them. So I'll just start with month is here. Year is here. And then channel is here. So this is saying that we spent, $1,759 for Angie in January of 2025. So that's the top part of the equation. The bottom part of the equation is going to be how many booked appointments were there, right? So in other words, if there were 17 booked appointments, then the average would be, $100 or something, $105. And so we need to divide this, but what we can do, we can just copy this formula, and then we would need to change SUMIFS to COUNTIFS, and then remove this because we're not summing anything. I'll just show you how to do it. So we want to COUNTIFS this time, though the sequencing doesn't matter because we're not summing anything. So you can do it in any order that you want. So we can just do the same thing. Leads, let's see, month is here, comma, table year is here, comma, table channel is here, comma, and then the final thing we need, which we didn't do in the top part, is table leads appointment booked. And then for this, we want yes. And now you can see $293 was the average cost to get an appointment booked for Angie for January. Okay, so now we want to drag this over and down, but we can't because of what's called absolute and relative referencing. Right now, this is relative referencing, meaning as we drag something down, you can see it's not Angie anymore. We want this to be Angie, but as we drag it down, it's not because it's relative, it's changing. And so we want to, anywhere we see the columns, we want to lock the column, meaning as we go left to right, we don't want things to change. Like, because that's what's happening. You can see here, if you go here, you can see that the year should be the month, and then the red here, the value for Angie, should be the year. And the way we do that is with what's called absolute referencing at the, the row and the column level. So anything in the column section, just put the $ before the column, so before the letter. So B3 and C3, just before the letter, before the column, and then for the Angie, for D2, put it before the row, so before the number. And then now just copy and paste it. Don't drag it, because with the table, you get the same exact problem. So you can see speed to lead when it should be lead cost. But you can fix that by just copying and then pasting. And then you're good to go. And so one thing you'll notice is there's a lot of zeros, and the reasoning is because for stuff like this, there is no, like for referrals, there's no lead cost, right? So we're just going to delete these because there's no marketing spend for those channels. Okay, so underneath what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and then I'll just copy this here, and I'll just paste it here. No, I guess I paste everything. But yeah, let me delete this. And then now what I want to do, actually, no, I'll leave it here. I'll show you what's happening. So we just need to put this down here. Just click and drag, just so it's attributing to the right formula. I'll delete these. But now what we want is a numerical count of how many appointments there were, because if, say, there was one appointment, you might not want to analyze it as deeply as if there were 20 appointments, right? You might not have enough data. And so all we have to do is just delete the numerator of, if you remember, this was counting the number of appointments, right? So we just delete everything above it on, the numerator, everything before the formula, and then you have, the count of appointments for that month by that marketing, channel. And so, yeah, so you have all that. So that's good to go. And then the last thing, well, not the last thing, there's a couple more things I want to do. One is overall. So what was the overall cost per appointment in the data set? Not just by month and year, but in the total data set. And what we can do is we can copy this, paste it here. you're going to get an error because there's no months here. But what we need to do is we need to delete that section anyways. So anywhere you see the month and the year like this, just delete it. And then same thing here. And then that gives you the overall cost per appointment based off of, the lead sources of the data set. And the reason I wanted to do this was to show you we can add a new, we can say if this is less than 4, 5, 6, whatever number you want, then don't give me the average cost, of the booked appointment. Give me a dash. And so we can use an if function. And you don't have to do this. I just wanted to show you how to do it. So if this is less than 4, so not less than or equal to, so less than 4 meaning 3, 2, 1, 0, then just give me a dash. Otherwise, give me that whole formula. And then you can copy, Control-Shift-Right, Control-Shift-Down, and paste. And now you can see some of these dashes in here. Right, because it's less than 4. You have 3s here. And so again, you don't have to do that. You might want to keep it. If there's 1, then you're good. 1 booked appointment. And then finally, let's look at this one. So here we want this to be conditional formatted to where this is going to highlight red if it's greater than a target cell. And so I'm just going to type in, $150 here. I'm going to highlight everything, press Control, highlight the row down here, home, conditional formatting, highlight cells greater than, and then click the 150, and then click OK. And one thing you'll notice is that the dashes are coming through. And if you don't want that to happen, which you probably don't, you can highlight the range again, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, text that contains, and then a dash. And then let's do a custom format. We'll just do something like gray or something. Okay. And so that's essentially how you can calculate this. Again, this is one piece of a puzzle, right? That's the thing with data. There's a lot of ways to analyze this, and you should go further with this because this doesn't mean it's bad, right? Meaning, if your average gross profit per an Angie Home Advisor lead is $2,000, but your average, gross profit for Google Ads, or even here, Google local ads is $500, then you're better off spending more money in Angie, right? Because it's $249 more per lead, but you're making thousands of dollars more in gross profit. That's the key, gross profit, not revenue. But anyways, if you have any questions on this one, shoot me an email, questions@databoards.io. If you want this data set again, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. Just say, hey, Ryan, can you shoot over the marketing file for a cost per booked appointment? And then finally, if you need some help structuring your data in this format or just getting some of these insights, if you don't have the bandwidth on your team or if you don't have anyone on your team that can do this type of stuff, then again, there's a link to hop on my calendar or you can just shoot me an email. But if not, then I'll see you in future lessons.